Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of Enjoy the Walk Golf podcast. We saw the final major of the year come and go, not without some heroics, some back nine heroics from the winner, Cam Smith, some back nine heroics from Cameron Young, who almost backdoored his first major at 25 years old, kind of going from a no name to shooting a incredible first day score and not really going off the leaderboard after that. We saw Rory play really good golf, just not make the putts when he needed to down the stretch on Sunday. All in all, the home of golf, St. Andrews, gave us, I think, one of the best majors of the year, just from a viewership standpoint. So, Dante, welcome back to post major golf. We are on the home stretch of major championship golf for the year. It's all over. What do we think after the last major has wrapped up? Did it give us the best show of the year, or did it contend maybe with some of the other majors that we saw play out throughout the year?
I think it was one of the better ones out of the three. Just the sole fact, because watching, like I texted you, I watched a replay of the last kind of like 12 to 18 holes, and just those three players alone, Rory, Cameron Young, and Cam Smith, legit anybody really could have won if just a couple putts rolled maybe two balls more and just dropped. I mean, it was almost, pound for pound type of final stretch down the
Well, and I
until the
mean,
last ball was
and like,
holed.
and to remind our listeners and myself even and you as well, the heroics we had at the PGA when Justin Thomas went into a playoff with Zalatoris, and that was a great major. And then you had the U.S. Open heroics, the back nine, just absolute iron display from Matt Fitzpatrick. I mean, we saw this year, and then obviously Scotty Scheffler taking home the Masters and just an incredible display of golf. We have had an absolutely absurdly good year for major championship golf as a viewer.
Oh yeah, all in all across the board, the 2022 majors were just phenomenal. I mean, they like you said, all around were just top notch, exciting, great viewership, great experience. I mean, you're talking certain shots that could have make or break their way to holding up the trophy.
Mhm. No doubt. It was one of those things as you went down the stretch, and like you said, if Cam Smith doesn't putt the absolute lights out of the ball, and Rory makes one that maybe rolls an extra two rotations and drops, then we're looking at a completely different leaderboard. And then even at the end of the day, after Cameron Young sinks that 20-footer for eagle, the pressure's back on Cam Smith to hit a little 4-footer with the championship on the line. I mean, what else can you ask for in a major championship other than for a guy to have to hole a little 4-foot birdie putt to take home the championship?
And that's what you ask for right there, right? You don't want, oh cool, if your favorite golfer's in the lead, you want him to blow everybody away, right? But at the end of the day, you want that exciting wire to wire down the stretch, last ball hold, in hopes to either go to a playoff or that guy comes out on top. I mean, look at the famous, picture that's going around with the Rory teeing off and the kid, no cell phone in hand, with his fingers crossed. I mean,
Double
that right
finger crossed.
there, double fingers crossed. I mean, that photo alone right there should just basically say that's how great of a tournament the Open produced.
I will say this. I think just from a viewership standpoint, my girlfriend enjoys watching golf in very small doses. She sat down with me from the minute Rory McIlroy teed off and watched the entire broadcast, start to finish, asking me questions along the way. What's happening here? Who's doing, like, what's the leaderboard mean? Where's everybody at? What's going on? But she watched the whole broadcast and was in it from start to finish. And I think, tip our caps to the RNA and their broadcast partners, because I thought they did an incredible job of keeping golf at the forefront and obviously showing the fans, showing the golfers, and really just showing St. Andrews in a way that, the viewer could really just enjoy that golf course.
Yeah, and then kind of going back on the broadcast where we've talked about this numerous times, like you said, they did a hell of a broadcast. I mean, you saw all types of shots, a lot of drivers off the tee, whatever, or irons off the tee, mid irons into the green, putts, chips. I mean, you basically saw what it's like to play a round of golf if you were out there yourself, seeing the course itself, seeing the layout, seeing the history of the land, seeing even the road filled with people and just fans.
I mean, so let's talk about that, right? The road filled with people. I think most notoriously the picture overhead from either a drone or like a sky tower of Tiger Woods walking down the 18th, standing room only, shoulder to shoulder from the 18th tee all the way up to the green, behind the green, up the road. I mean, it was 10, 12 deep, if not more. People standing on balconies, just everybody hats off, saluting Tiger Woods. It gave us chills, and it gave him chills too, as he was kind of brought to tears. What are your impressions? Do you think do the fans realize, hey, maybe this is the last time Tiger Woods walks these fairways at St. Andrews with it not being there for another 7 years? Or do you think he'll come back, but just that'll be his retirement farewell tour at that point? And do they think this is the last time they truly saw him competing?
I think it's the last time they truly saw him competing, and I think he's realized that. I mean, don't get me wrong. The guy still gets it out there. The guy still plays hella golf. I mean, he's playing it on one leg, but it just, I think everybody's starting to realize there is now in accepting that the face of the tour is
Mm.
no longer Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is now their mentor. I mean, he's out there. He's having a good time. He's having jokes. He's hitting putts at Rory. I mean, you saw that. It's like you got guys like Rory now, and even these younger guys coming up. And the guys of Matt Fitzpatrick and Cam Smith, right? These are the guys that are your tour leaders, right? These are the guys to be looking for. And I just think that it's going the next time. I'm not going to say Tiger Woods is hanging up the gloves and putting the clubs in the closet and calling it a career. I mean, he's still going to go out there and compete, but I think if people are accepting the fact that his competitive contention is almost non-existent in a way.
For sure. And I mean, we saw Jack Nicklaus do his farewell tour at 65 years old out at St. Andrews. I think if you look at Tiger Woods from just who he is and what he has done in his career and why, Jack Nicklaus was the reason he had his career, right? Like that's who he was chasing. His entire bane of the existence was the 15 or the 18 majors, right? Like it was get there. It was beat Jack. So if you look at how he's conducted himself, a lot of it is like the how did Jack do it? How did the greats do it? So I don't think it's the last time we'll see him at St. Andrews, but I do think it's the last time he really is going to compete. I mean, 7 years till he comes back. Tiger would be over 50 years old, so it'd be really tough to say, like, guarantee he would compete. But I mean, Phil Mickelson was notorious in that PGA Championship win at a later age in high 40s, so I'm not counting him out. I just really hope that he can continue to rehab that leg that he's on because it's still mangled. It's still not 100%. He spoke at it again this week of saying, if you knew what I had to go through just to tee it up every day, you'd call me insane. So he's definitely
You
working really hard to get that leg ready just to play 18 holes of golf.
you think if St. Andrews wasn't on the list for this year, he would have competed in the majors?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I think at this point, especially with having the couple years off he did, or however many, between the injury and then the scandal and stuff, his years are limited, right? Like he knew if he could get himself back. I mean, you look at what happened in 2008. He played on a broken leg. Like he played on an absolute beat up leg down at Torrey Pines and won. So I think he just knows, like, hey, I'm going to bet on myself here. And I'm going to bet on my talents and my absolute expertise. And I'm going to try and mentally beat people. And now this year it just didn't happen, right? Like it just wasn't capable. I think this mountain is a lot insurmountable than what he's had to deal with in the past. I think that leg is just so beat up and so weak that it's not producing the results he wants. Give it another year, give it 2 years. I mean, if you look back at the famous accident with Ben Hogan, it was Hogan that was in the bus accident, right?
correct. I think it was a car with the
Car
bus,
accident
right?
with the bus. The bus hit him. It took him 4 years to get back. So let's be realistic. Modern medicine and all helping him, obviously, and he's got a pretty much open-ended checkbook when it comes to that too. But let's be real here. Give Tiger the 2, maybe 3 years that's needed for that leg to even get back to some sort of like health. I'd hate to see what it looks like under that sleeve that he wears all the time.
I've seen pictures. It's not pretty. It's not. But I mean, you do have a point. I mean, he's kind of playing on one leg, because if you look at his swing a little bit, it seems like all his weight is on that left leg, and when he turns, that it's almost like that right foot slides, just kind of like how Harold Varner does. When he like kicks his foot up and like
Yeah,
slides that right foot.
you
It's
know,
kind
it's
of like Tiger does that in a way now, just to take the pressure off of that. Because I mean, if you look at that leg when the sleeve's off, it's his leg's bowed.
Yeah, it's very bowed. Even with the sleeve on, it's bowed. So I mean, set realistic expectations for Tiger. I think the next time we'll see him is his Bahamas Invitational. He has no reason to tee it up the rest of the year. I think he just kind of relaxes, plays at Medalist once or twice a week if he wants, and just kind of slow rolls himself back into it. I mean, I know it's not even the end of the summer, but if we're looking at like game plan for Tiger, it's Augusta.
Always.
Next year is Augusta for Tiger already. So
Yeah.
we've got that to look forward to. But talking about other people that did make the weekend and really had a strong showing. How about the Daly duo of John Daly and Son on bag, repping Hooters from head to toe pretty much the entire weekend. That's something only Mr. Daly, John Daly, can pull off, and repping squares nonetheless out there all weekend long too.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, it seems like that's where I think, Tiger's going to end up being, not with like the attire, but kind of just, I can still go out there, I can still hang it around, I can still get it out there, but I can still play. And I'm just going to go out there and play. I'm going to be able to enjoy the course, enjoy the camaraderie, enjoy the community, and enjoy a little bit of competitive golf. But yeah, that was kind of cool. And nothing better than having your kid on the bag, right? And when your kid is pretty much borderline, you know, making his way towards the PGA Tour, because obviously
For
that's
sure.
the route that he's planning on.
You got to think, right? Like he's saying, all right, how often can I get little John inside the ropes to just get him comfortable with the atmosphere? And there's no better place than a major championship to get someone comfortable with the atmosphere of playing professional golf. I mean, John Daly, I think maybe the last day or the second to last day, made like a 90-foot putt or something like that. And they dapped each other up like only a dad and son can do. It was just really cool scene out there. And I'm sure that's memories that they'll cherish for a lifetime.
Oh, definitely. That's awesome to see. And it's typical John Daly. Just you can't beat it.
You can't. He's an absolute movie to watch, just like 24/7, of what's going to happen next, what's he going to wear next, and as you look at again him just kind of writing his own legacy, and kind of maybe writing the ship on some of the unfavorable things he's done in his career in the past. Seeing him and his son out there at St. Andrews, the home of golf, is something that I think a lot of people, he gained a lot of fans by having his son the caddy this week.
Oh, definitely.
When it's like, as we're looking at other guys that wrote their own stories this weekend, unfortunately, Rory McIlroy didn't quite write the story at the end of the week that he wanted to. I want to talk before we get into just his play this week about how consistent Rory McIlroy's been in majors just all year this year. There's a stat that came out. He has beaten over 97.5% of golfers that have teed up in all four majors, yet hasn't won a one. He is a solo second, a third place now, and I think like a 13th and 31st.
I mean,
But another stat line that I think is just even more absurd is he is 29 under par at all of the major championships this year, leading in every category when it comes to playing under par at major championships, consistently throughout the year, yet still doesn't have one. I mean, what a year for Rory McIlroy if you're looking at it from like any other perspective other than Rory McIlroy.
yeah. I mean, the talent out there is it's too deep for it to just be the same consistent player winning over and over and over again. But if you're able to be consistent top 20 over and over and over again, you are playing some damn well good golf. And you cannot put your head down and kind of feel bad about that. Okay, yeah, you didn't get the win. I know he wanted it so bad because I know he's got this new fire that kind of like lit up under the ass from LIV. He's pissed off from that. And I think like deep down, now it's showing because I think LIV kind of just sparked everything. Is he probably is pissed off that all these years he still hasn't been able to just get a major after his last one, and I can see that, but he's out there just he's like, I want to win, and I don't think you've seen that type of fire or excitement or I he just I'm trying to think of a word here.
He's got that like
He just
killer mentality where he wants to put the
yes,
dagger in people again. And that has
it's
you
not
haven't
that
seen that from Rory McIlroy in a
no
long time.
that or you really haven't seen that for a long time since almost Tiger Woods, where I'm going out on this course and I hate you all and I'm going to basically destroy you all.
For sure. And if you look at like his comments beforehand, we talked about it on podcast pre-Open Championship, and I picked Rory because of that. I said, not being able to have that in you is a big loss. But then all of a sudden, when Rory has that, it takes him back to vintage Rory, like when he was at Congressional and just like lapped the field. I mean, when Rory has that mentality, he's very tough to beat. And I think if you look at how he played on Sunday, if you sign him up for a 2 under before he hits his tee shot on the first tee, he's probably thinking he wins by at least 1 or 2. I mean, there's no one that could have expected Cam Smith to go out there and shoot 30 on the back nine coming in at St. Andrews, and especially on the last day. And then Cameron Young shoot a 7 under to follow him up and pass him. And with a 2 under in the last round, he's stuck at third. There's no way he would have thought a 2 under would not have gotten the job done on the final day at St. Andrews.
No, and he even said it best. He's like, the guy just played better golf. I mean, I'm gonna tip the cap to the winner. He just played better golf a lot longer than I did and ended up victorious. And there's really nothing you can do about that.
No, there's absolutely not. And I think let's talk about the course a little bit because we saw the Sunday heroics and it lended itself to a lot of birdies. The on course announcers were kind of giving the course a hard time all day Sunday. Oh, we're just going to see a 2-putt birdie championship, right? Like all putts for eagle all over the place. And I thought, now correct me if I'm wrong or you thought otherwise, but I thought this difference in play, right? Like if you hit the right mound and it careens into the right spot and you're rewarded from it, I thought it was fun. That's links off, right? Like we don't see that the rest of the year. I thought it was exceptional golf like layout. I thought the course played fair. Some of the pins were really tucked, like you had to be really precise. I didn't think it was funny farm golf. I thought it was just a true test of links golf. And if you had the length to take advantage of the golf course, well, then you could.
Yeah, plus, I mean, it played extremely firm and fast. So, like, I mean, these guys were nuking drivers, and they're like, "Oh, that's a great drive." Next thing you know, you're in those like high grass weeds. I mean, these guys know how to play these shots out of anything. I mean, the guys are just getting better and smarter. So you cannot knock these tour players from what they're producing on the course, averaging five under throughout 4 rounds. I mean, I'm so sick and tired of the announcers saying like, "Oh, it needs to be almost like close to par, close to par." No, not necessarily. I mean, if everybody's going under, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, these guys are just playing great golf. I mean, they know how to hit the sweet spot. They just know how to play all these shots. But then again, you saw guys struggle. I mean, look at Cam Smith, third round. I mean, he got himself into some serious trouble by making certain decisions off the tee, and
Yeah.
the guy got absolutely pissed. He got screwed, and it's you hit like an offline shot, it hooks a little bit. Okay, you can usually scramble and get out of that, but it was almost kind of a double penalty. I mean, he hit a bad shot, which ended up resulting in a bad outcome of what he had to do next and made a poor decision on his play, which cost him. But I thought the only thing that the course I thought was okay, it was brown. It was brown and green, and it was actually kind of tough to see where the layout of the fairway to the rough to the green was. That was my only gripe in regards to that. So, I mean, but again, I don't think you should knock St. Andrews for what they did. I feel like that's even more links golf and open golf.
Yep, I was just gonna say that. I think the way you described it, right? The kind of nuance of not really knowing where fairway is and where green is, I think is just that's the special aspect of how visually St. Andrews challenges players. Because if you looked at it too, from TV a lot, I feel like you lose perspective of how deep some of the bunkers are, how high some of the mounds are, until a player in a caddy walks up to one of these mounds and they can't see over it. And they're hitting a 5-iron into one of these greens and they can't see over it, or one of these bunkers and Victor Hovland's standing in it and it's over his head. He's got to chip out sideways. Like sometimes I think the TV shrinks how large these golf courses are and how big the depth changes are. I mean, I think the first time we got a great look at it was on 17 when Cameron Smith had to hit that putt around the bunker and the camera panned behind him. So you saw where he was standing, he could barely see the tip of the flag. Yet he was using putter to smack it, and if he didn't hit it
Yeah,
hard enough, the ball
it
was
went
going back in the
around the
bunker.
bunker. I looked at. I said, I was watching it with my girlfriend. I said, what? I said, what is he aiming at? I said, that's going right in the bunker. And next thing you know, you hit it. It goes up, down, up, and around. And I said, oh my gosh! I was just like, that's crazy. And that was like another cool thing that you don't see here in the States when it comes to championship golf is a lot of putters well off the green.
Oh my gosh. I mean, to a point where it was like 60, 70 yards.
Yeah, I
And
said,
I think
what?
another phenomenal thing they did on the broadcast was just zone in on the sound the putter was making. I mean, the thwack that like you could hear when only like a putter hits something at like 80 yards or more. I mean, it was super, it was just really cool to see and hear how just how incredible that these, these guys are using their imaginations and not
I
just
mean,
saying, well, I've got to hit a little chip shot here, right? And all of a sudden it's a putter from 80 yards out.
how about I think Hovland and Spieth both did it. They putted off the road into the rough up the to get up on the green. I mean, you don't see shots like that in the States, and I think people tend to forget that that's open golf out there, right? That you
That is the
can.
epitome of why we love golf, especially love golf at St. Andrews. It brings a completely different dynamic to the game. Like you said, Jordan Spieth played one off the asphalt and made par using a putter from like 40 yards away. I mean, just something you never dream of seeing. Like the way American golf courses are designed, you'll just never see that. That's just an aspect, only a course that is designed around a city and around like an ancient city at that. Is giving you aspects like that. It's just incredible to watch. I mean, they even talked to Cam Smith afterwards, right? And they asked him, did you ever think about chipping that on 18 when he putted it from like 30 yards away or whatever? And he said he thought about it. It was just too firm, right? Like it was basically like playing off concrete. And I think that was the other aspect as you watched it all week that was really interesting to see, even from 120 and in. These guys were having to play off of probably the tightest, firmest lies that they've had all year.
Yeah, I mean, dust would just come up off. Like there was no divot. It was dust. It was wild. I mean, if you really had to come into it steep or really get after it to get to see a divot pop up. But I mean, a lot of the times they would go in, make contact with the ball, and it almost seemed like dirt just poofed up out of the ground. It was tight, it was firm, and it was fast. So yeah, you got these guys using these wedges with 8+ degrees worth of bounce, dude.
Mhm.
That's Blade City.
Well, and it was interesting, right? Like you just noted, it was firm, it was fast. It was that way tee to green, but the greens themselves weren't that fast. I think they were running about like a 10 or a 12. That's something that always intrigues me when it comes to St. Andrews is they don't always have the fastest greens in the world. Um, in relation to Tiger mentioned on Thursday, some of the fairways were running faster than the greens of just how firm and fast the golf course played.
I think they
It
just
always
do that.
astounds me.
Yeah, I think they do that anticipating because what makes the open is the bad weather that comes in, the wind that ends up whipping in there. And you really haven't seen that the past few years. But I feel like the greens are a lot slower and more receptive just because when the ball's sitting on the green, you got 40-mile, 50-mile winds just gusting in there. You don't want
Sure.
that ball rolling off the green. So I think that's why they do it. But yeah, it is weird. But again, that's to me, that's open golf, and that's St. Andrews golf right there. You're gonna have slower greens than your fairways.
Absolutely. Now it was fun to watch. Another guy that just I think really showed his expertise out there this week. Unfortunately, he didn't really contend into Sunday, but had some absolute heroic shots on Sunday. Was Shane Lowry. He chipped in not once but twice in back-to-back holes, making eagle from like 30, 40-yard range. I mean, the man is unbelievable with a wedge in his hands, and he really showed it off this past weekend.
Yeah, it sure did. I think that just kind of comes from that United Kingdom territory and just being able to understand that kind of golf over there. That's something like if you and I went over there, we'd have to play the course once or more than once because I think going out it's just not what we're used to. You need to know how to play these types of courses.
Oh, for sure. There's an art to it, and you only get good at art by repetition, right? So there's something to be said about growing up in like that Ireland area, the England area, and just having those golf courses at your disposal, and knowing how to hit those shots, knowing how to play those kind of really tight but wonky lies. Like I didn't see many guys have a flat chip shot, let alone a flat shot all weekend long, unless they were in a bunker.
Yeah, you're right. It's there were like kind of going off of the camera angles. There were when there, I guess maybe it was like a drone footage and they got it low when they were rolling it through the fairways. You really saw that there's no flat spot on those fairways, and it just blew my mind.
Yeah, it brought a lot of interesting shot plays in to play this weekend, which I think is just why we love the Open Championship, but especially love it at St. Andrews. So another guy who I just think is due to get one soon, another Open, is Jordan Spieth. He played his butt off on Sunday. Unfortunately, he was just too far back to make anything happen, but he was good enough for a tied 8 finish, moving up 3 spots, shooting 68 with a bunch of birdies to start the round off. Started off with the 4 in his first 7. I mean, he loves Open Championship golf, and when he gets on a roll, he's tough to beat.
Yeah, I think with the swing change and everything, I think he's finally starting to get more comfortable
Mhm.
with what he can produce. Because, like you said, it's just seems like his routine's getting quicker. That pre-shot routine is just not exaggerated as much. It's he's getting comfortable with that, and I think he keeps that going. Jordan Spieth again. I mean, damn, tied eighth. I mean, you cannot knock him for that. That's a hell of a weekend.
Now, you absolutely can't. Heck of a payday, I imagine, as well. With the winner taking home 2.5 million this year in Cam Smith. But we can't go without talking about the Live guys. Obviously, allowed to play in this Open Championship. I think jury's still out on what they're going to be able to play in come next year. So, staying tuned, watching that closely. But two guys, T6 and T8. Dustin Johnson and Bryson DeChambeau at 13 and 12 under. Bryson had himself a heck of a back nine as well, going out in 31. So I mean, he bolted up the leaderboard late on a Sunday, and then you had guys like Abraham Answer and Saddam. I'm gonna screw his last name up, Kaiwajana, um, coming in at 11 under. I mean, there was some good representation from the Live Tour. Couple guys inside the top 12, which I think you know did it maybe silence the haters as far as it not being a tour that holds its own? Probably not. But it was nice to see. I think what I want to see out of a world golf tour, and it's equal representation, right? These guys came, it's an open, they're allowed to play. And you know what? Some guys contended. Just Dustin Johnson was up there for a good part of the conversation on Saturday. Unfortunately, just kind of faltered late in his round on Saturday. But even coming down Sunday, he started the day through 12, actually through 15 holes was bogey free. So I mean, he was right in the mix. It just came up a little short, bogey in 17 and coming in at 69. So he was in the mix late into a Sunday afternoon too. So really good golf out of a lot of guys that I think had a target on their back this week. I think those guys had a little extra, like, well, if they don't play well, it's because they're on LIV. So kudos to those guys. I know Taylor Gooch, as he's kind of become a solo spokesperson for the LIV Golf, has kind of said, it was an us against them mentality. But I think they proved a lot of people wrong in showing up at the highest of levels.
Yeah, and I like your point there too, is what you said about it being an open, having these different types of world, tours, which that's how it should be. The four majors should be separate completely from every tour out there, and everybody has the ability to make sure that they qualify and get in, and then there's your like four majors, and I think that's kind of cool. Like, oh, you got PGA Tour, Live Tour, Tour ABC, I don't know, Tour 1, 2, 3, all making their way, and then you want to kind of talk about community and whatnot and camaraderie. It's like you're bringing the community together for one big major tournament. And I think
Mhm.
that's what I would hope to see in the future. If you want to go play on that tour, you want to go play on this tour, it is what it is. But separate the majors from everything else, and the majors be the majors, and that's it.
Yeah, I think, the more and more that uncovers about LIV and the reactions to it and whatnot, and what it is and what it's becoming, I think that's where I still hold my stance on it. I've been pretty true on it since it came out is, let's see it play out. Let's see these guys who continue to jump, play, championship golf at the highest of levels. And then, you know, it's just another world tour. I think as I continue to grow on it too, my research goes a little deeper into what compares to it, right? And I think if I look, I had the opportunity to look at it from a different lens. Someone was talking soccer to me last week, and they were comparing it like Champions League, MLS, and whatnot, right? You've got this European League, you've got the MLS, and anyone who plays in either of those is allowed to go play in the World Cup, right? Because it's a grander like game, kind of. Um, it's a grander game like show, right? So that's as I started to kind of listen to who was telling me that, I'm like, you know what? It makes a lot of sense. And then, as talk of Henrik Stenson going this week of him leaving and possibly getting banned from the Ryder Cup, I think golf just continues on a world scale to dig itself its own grave from a PGA Tour standpoint, because you've got these examples across different sports of how the world gets along. And you've just got the PGA Tour stamping its foot in the ground and saying, no, it's our tour or nothing else, right? So I thought the Open, and I hope the Open Championship continues to do very similar to what the U.S. Open did this year, allow world talents to play no matter where they're at, no matter what tour they play in, because that's what Open Championship golf is all about. And I think in the grander scheme of things, that's what the world wants to see, right? We want to see, no matter what league they play for week in and week out, we want to see the best of world talents come in and play and win an Open Championship, because if those people get banned, it starts to bring the question of, did they really become the best at this event, right? Like
Yeah.
so and so is left out. Well, all of a sudden, well, you're the best minus so and so, right? And up until this date, we've had that openness, and I think we need to keep that to truly keep the integrity of the game.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree with you. And as you were saying that, like kind of bringing it back to the soccer thing, that makes a lot of sense. Is there's multiple tours that or per se, if you want to take this in a business side of things, right? Like company A, B, and C, you
Mm.
all meet up at the end for some type of event, and you compete against each other to kind of crown the best golfer
Mhm.
of, like you said, the world. I don't. They have. I think they need to take a step back, have the conversation between you know the three of them, and say, listen, we're gonna do our thing. But when we have these events, we are going to see who's the best of the best. That's, like you said, that's what it's for, right?
You would think,
You would think.
but
Well, I mean, it's just
unfortunately,
gonna.
the scenarios are a little different as we've seen over the last few weeks. So, as we talk about wrapping up Open Championship golf, I think it would be a disservice to our listeners if we didn't talk about Cameron Young for a little bit. The young hitter, absolute bomber out of New York, shot a final round 65, including a 20-foot eagle putt on the final hole to tie him for the championship before Cameron Smith tapped in his little 4-footer. But I mean, if you're thinking about it from a match play standpoint, right? Like if you're down to the final hole and you can a 20-footer on a guy that almost had the championship wrapped up, if you miss, all of a sudden puts pressure in that 4-footer. I don't care what level of golf you are. I mean, we see professionals across the ranks miss putts like that under a massive amount of pressure. I'm looking at you, Will Zalatoris. I'm sorry, but I'm looking at you. So, I mean, we've seen it in major championships this year. So it was not guaranteed for Cameron Smith to make that putt. But it was definitely, I mean, what a round for him, kind of in the shadows of Cameron Smith as he had a back nine for the ages that I think will be talked about forever happening at St. Andrews. But let's not forget, he was only one stroke behind Cameron Smith the entire day. I mean, from a guy that showed up to his first Open and just absolutely balled out all weekend long. What a spot to be in to can a 20-foot eagle on the last hole and have a chance to win the Claret Jug at St. Andrews of all places.
Yeah, and being mid-20s to the fact that just come out rookie, new on the block. I mean, it that guy had a lot of great composure and was just making phenomenal swings. Just playing great golf, and that is a win in my book. If I was in his position, saying, "Wow, I went up there and played my absolute best and played phenomenal." The one guy just outdid me by one shot. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to go into next year's major season damn well saying I'm winning this.
Yeah, and I
Now
mean,
I
you
have a
look at it,
chance,
he's up for the PGA Tour Rookie of the Year this year. So very young in his playing career. And I think, like you just mentioned, I think you hit the nail on the head. You look at the confidence that this is going to give someone who has not really contended much, up to this date. You look at a final round 65 in a major. I mean, you could count the players on one hand that have had a final round 65 in a final round of a major championship. So to put that kind of confidence in there, that was with two bogeys on the front nine. He bogeyed the first and the ninth, kind of bookend bogeys on the front nine. I mean, if he cleans those up, he wins by one or two. So I mean, what a week for him. I think as you look to forecast some eyes to keep on somebody, keep eyes on Cameron Young. I think you and I were both astounded of how long he is off the tee.
dude. I mean, they were showing stats, and he was having, these guys are hitting 170, 175, maybe 180 mile, ball speed. He gets up 190, 195. I mean, you're just like, wait a second. Like the guy was just absolutely murdering the ball.
The final hole at St. Andrews was playing 357, not much wind, and I know he got a good kick and careened off the one mound about 30 yards in front of the hole. But all I'm saying is he made it happen. And Rory McIlroy, who is notoriously one of the longer hitters on tour for his size and stature, came up 40 or 50 yards short. Like you and I talked about it when you watched the highlights. Like when Cameron Young hit that ball and needed an eagle to make things happen. And you saw Rory McIlroy come to the tee and need an eagle. At least I was, and I don't know how everybody else across the world was, but I'm like, well, Cameron Young just did it, right? And if Cameron Young can do it, of course Rory can do it. So like, come on, Rory, hit the screen, make a 20-footer, let's go. And he comes up 30 yards short, if not more. And I don't know about you, but I was just kind of sitting there being like, huh, that's not maybe Cam Young hits it that far, or maybe Rory just missed it, but that was not what I expected out of Rory
No,
after Cam Young making it happen.
and that's why I loved when they put the TrackMan ball speeds because these guys average that are longer hitters. It's like 170, 175, right?
Mhm.
Upwards to 180, 185 if they really step on it. But again, you're hitting 185, 190, dude. You're putting some serious speed on the ball, and that's what I was looking at when it popped up, and when those numbers represented, I said, I was like, whoa, just in shock. I was like, that dude just destroyed it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he smokes it. It was fun to watch. It was really cool to see a guy who just like, first time out there, just kind of no hinges attached and just letting it rip and really getting after it. I mean, he spoke about it after the round saying, if I'd have signed up for a 65 on the first tee, he's like, you'd have thought I'd have cashed the winning check right there. And then all of a sudden he just gets beat by one by a guy who just played lights out golf and set the history books as far as shooting two rounds at 64 or better in an Open Championship. I mean, just incredible stuff this weekend. As a golf fan, you just got to sit back and be like, man, St. Andrews again. The timeless test of golf produced another instant classic.
Again, one of my favorite tournaments to watch.
It begs the question for our listeners out there. We had the question: Is it St. Andrews or is it the Masters? Is it Augusta National? What is our favorite as a podcast? Maybe we differ. I mean, what do we like from a golf course perspective?
Well,
And here's my other question. I'm going to round it all in together before you give me the answer. Is it the broadcast and the aura around each place? I know they're a little different. St. Andrews has been around forever. But, what are we bringing into this aspect when thinking St. Andrews or Augusta? What's all encompassed in giving us, this or that?
oh, dude, this now you're just making it way more difficult than what I typed in
I,
our doc. Like, geez, I was just thinking, like, if you had, I'll answer your question, but answer my question, or if we can incorporate the two. My major question too is if someone were to basically hand you a plane ticket, or just say that here's a ticket. On this day, you can go play
Mhm.
either of these courses, all expenses paid, yada yada. Which one are you choosing, and like why?
Well, I'm choosing St. Andrews.
So am
If
I.
it's so if it's from that perspective of which one am I playing, all expenses
Yes,
paid, I'm going to the home of golf. I'm going to St.
absolutely.
Andrews. Like no questions asked.
No que- Now the only fight up against that is if it's Augusta, but from what I've heard, Augusta isn't year round. Isn't what we see that week of the Masters.
Well, and I'll
But
play devil's advocate for you there too, and you can get caught in a windy, rainy mess out in St. Andrews, and it's an absolute disaster. So,
I
which
feel like with
one do you want to
that,
take the risk on?
that is true. But I feel like
Does
I
the
don't know if
Guinness
you were
taste a
if you
little
were
better if you get caught in a windy, rainy mess out in St.
yeah, but
Andrews?
that's almost in the experience. You want that
I agree.
Carnoustie, Carnasty win sometime. Only one day. If you're playing it for the week, you just want one day out of that. I think playing that every day would probably suck.
Now, let's
But
flip it and say which event would you rather be given an all expenses paid viewership to, like from a fan's perspective? Which one would you go watch? The Masters or an Open at St. Andrews?
are we talking like I'm physically there?
We're talking you are physically there. You've got inside the ropes access to go to either one, right? You're given media passes to
Oh
go to
my god.
Augusta, or you're given media passes to go to St. Andrews. Which ones are you taking?
Oh, I don't know, dude. I feel like I'm probably gonna get like scrutinized here, just saying it should be a no-brainer. It should be Augusta, but I'm thinking a little bit differently, just because of the city of St. Andrews. That's kind of pulling me to St. Andrews again. But fuck, excuse my French.
The FCC won't let us be after that one. Oh man, I'm the same way. I'm so tongue
I
tied to give you an answer on my own question because I don't know, right? Because everyone who says once you experience Augusta, there's nothing like it. But I think I'm also in the same shoes of like it's across the pond, it's St. Andrews, it's the city, it's not just the golf course.
Okay,
Um,
I'll stop you there. If we're going straight up golf course, right? Just landscape, I'm probably gonna, and at each tournament moment, I'm choosing Augusta 100%. But if we're putting all of that into it, the the experience and the vibe, let alone like where you're going, I'm pulling towards St. Andrews just because the history, the city, the people, the hotel right on the course, the road, road hole, like
Yeah.
all of that, dude. That takes over the Augusta experience. I'm sorry.
I think you're
I'm
dead.
probably
I
gonna
think you're
get.
dead on. I think you're dead on. If you're going for an experience to have for yourself and for the overall like aura that is the city and everything around it, you're going St. Andrews, no doubt. But I think if you're going to cover an event, I think going to the par of 3 contest, covering the Masters from a perspective of being inside the ropes, watching at this hollow ground that is Augusta. I think you're going to Augusta to cover the event. I think you're going to play at St. Andrews. That's my idea of it.
Yes, sir.
I love it. Well,
Agreed.
guys, you guys can go to www.enjoythewalkpod.com to check out the latest podcast and YouTube videos from us. Go to @enjoythewalkpod on Instagram and Twitter to answer more questions like we just dived into. And as always, guys, you can find us on iTunes and Spotify, as well as Google and Amazon podcasts. So if you've got an Alexa, you can tune into us straight from your Alexa. Just ask it to play the Enjoy the Walk Off podcast. So, guys, as always, we appreciate you listening. Share with your fellow golf friends and your fellow golf nuts just like us to get industry access into the best interviews from across the country and across the world right here at Enjoy the Walk Golf podcast. As always, guys, get out there, carry your clubs, and enjoy the walk.